everyone, this is Wolfychu. Most of us have had jobs before. Some jobs might be really good and you might be really happy working there for a long time, but a lot of times jobs can be really bad and just don't turn out to be what you expected at all. Which is something that happened to me some time ago. This whole thing is a mess and was definitely the worst job I ever had, so brace yourself. I'd been looking for a new job for a while when I saw that they were hiring people at this new restaurant. Let's just say it was called Mashies. I applied for a job there as a waitress. I imagined that working as a waitress would probably be a good job to have. It seemed like it would be fairly easy and not too stressful. I got the job and everything started off good. There were two managers in this restaurant. The first one was the person who gave me the job, and I met the second one on my first day. My job consisted of 4 main things: showing customers to their tables, bringing them their food, clearing those tables when they left, and resetting the tables. There was a 5th job that they told me I would need further training for very soon: waiting tables. At this place, waiters were each given their own iPads that were specifically used for taking people's orders and sending them to the kitchen. Once they were able to train me, I would be given an iPad too, which they told me they would do very soon. Pretty easy, right? It was at the start. Everyone else working in the restaurant seemed really nice. There were a lot of people around my age, so I felt like I could make friends easily there. My first week went well. I enjoyed keeping busy and I got to know some of the other employees a bit too. There was this one lady who worked in the bar. She would ring a bell for me every time she prepared drinks that I needed to take out to the customers. She seemed nice enough, but you know those types of people who like to pretend that they're the boss of everyone in the workplace, but they're the same exact level? Well, she was one of those people. This one time she called me over on a busy day to tell me in an annoyed tone, "You should know better than to have your hair down while working." The manager had never said anything to me about my hair, and no other employees, including herself, tied up their hair all the time at work either, which I thought was odd. But I just said okay to her and tied up my hair straight away. She liked pulling me away from working to correct me on a lot of small things like that. She ended up getting so bossy that it got to the point where I expected her to correct me on at least one thing each day, and she seemed to always find something about me to complain about. A little bit more time passed, and I was still waiting to be trained to wait tables. Out of the 2 managers we had, only one of them would ever come into the restaurant, and every time I asked her about my training, she would get annoyed and tell me that the other manager would do it, and she told me to stop asking her about it. But the other manager never came in, and every time I tried to call her, she would either tell me it was a bad time or she wouldn't pick up at all. This went on for weeks. This was really bad because I needed to be on the same level as the other waiters, but I couldn't because of the management. I always ended up being in this awkward position in the middle of waiters and customers because, of course, since I was wearing the waiter's uniform, a lot of people would ask me to take their orders, and I'd always have to find another waiter for them. The more time I spent there, the more I noticed that the other waiters were slacking off a lot. I remember a few employees in particular. One of them was a guy who seemed like he mostly came into work to flirt with the other waitresses instead of actually doing any work. This guy was a bit of a charmer. It seems like he could pretty much talk his way out of anything, which is probably why I never saw him get into any trouble. Anyways, remember how I said that I couldn't take customers' orders myself and I always needed someone else to do it? Well, there was this one time where this happened when we were especially busy. I looked over and saw a flirty guy just standing there and doing his thing, flirting to other staff members, and I gestured to him to let him know that there were customers waiting to have their orders taken. He kept looking at me and then went back to flirting. He was ignoring me. So I apologized to the customers and asked them to wait a moment while I went over to him. He finally turned to me and just said, "What? What is it?" I was kind of shocked by his reaction. I hadn't seen that side of him before. He spoke to me as though I'd just ruined his day. I told him that he was needed in his section, and he rolled his eyes and stormed off. Like, how dare I remind him that he had to work at his job? All of the other staff members knew my situation, but suddenly it seemed like they were getting mad at me, like it was my fault when I had no control of the situation at all. It became clear that from that point on, all of the other staff members started to target and pick on me every chance they got. They knew I wouldn't speak up either because I was quiet and a very unconfrontational person. I kind of felt like the restaurant's doormat instead of a waitress. The managers were no help. The one who was always there would also eventually start to blame me for other people's laziness too. Other employees would just leave dirty dishes in the sink when I was busy, and I would be the one the manager would call over and yell at. When I tried to explain that it wasn't my mess, she wouldn't listen and would just tell me to do better. I found it really frustrating since I felt like everyone else was slacking off while I was just left to tidy up after them. That same manager even got mad at me once for my very oversized uniform that Mashi's gave to me, telling me that it looked bad. I had to remind her that this was the only uniform that they'd given me and that I ordered and paid for a new uniform on my first day that I ended up never receiving. When she realized that it wasn't my fault, she didn't apologize or say anything about my missing uniform. She just kind of muttered, "Okay, never mind then," and walked off. By this point, I was feeling really tired of everyone there. All of these little incidents were really building up. It kind of felt like walking on a minefield. There were mines planted everywhere, and I had no idea which way was a safe path. The incident that really turned out to be the final straw for me was with the lady from the bar again. I mentioned before how she liked to act like the one in charge and was overall very bossy. I was in the middle of clearing one of the bigger tables in the restaurant, which the manager specifically asked me to do, when this lady suddenly called me over to her. I thought, that can't be good. And I was right. As soon as I got to her, she started yelling at me for not being fast enough with the job. She said that she'd put drinks up to be taken to the customers and accused me of ignoring them even though I hadn't heard her ring the bell that she was supposed to ring when drinks were ready. She said that I did this all the time, which was not true at all. I've mentioned before that I'm very bad at dealing with people yelling at me. I tried my hardest to keep it in, but I started to cry. She continued yelling at me in front of everyone in the restaurant. There were customers there too that stopped eating just to look over at us. When she was finally done yelling, she just said, "Do you understand?" But by then I was just so upset about everything that I didn't even answer her. I just walked away. The lady threw her tea towel on the floor in anger, and I went back to the table I was clearing before, trying my best to make myself stop crying. The manager then came up to me, and instead of saying anything about what just happened, she asked me if I could go bring in boxes from out the back. She just wanted to get me out of the view of customers, because it made the restaurant look bad. I was so upset and frustrated by everything. I remember telling my boyfriend what happened after work, and he was so angry he tried to storm back into the restaurant to tell that lady off. I didn't let him know. After this happened, I was afraid to go back into work. I felt like I couldn't deal with it anymore. I honestly felt like I was given a disadvantage at the very start by not being fully trained by the managers, and that's what ended up giving everyone else working there a problem with me, which ended up creating an abusive workplace environment for me, which is not okay. No matter what your position is at a job, you should still be treated with respect by everyone. Bullying has no place in a workplace. A week after this happened, Mashi started giving me less and less shifts with no explanation, and so I took this as an opportunity to hand in my resignation. You might be thinking that I should have just quit a lot sooner, but it was hard at that time because this was the only job I could find. This job actually just so happened to be the last job I had before I started doing YouTube full-time though. I believe everything happens for a reason, and I'm really grateful for how things turned out. I feel extremely lucky that I'm able to do this every day, and I can't thank you all enough for being here with me on this crazy journey. If you guys have any stories you'd like to see me tell on my channel, let me know down in the comments down below. I'm gonna try to start getting back into uploading a lot more often now. Thank you all for your patience. If you guys would like to keep more up to date with me, then I also have a Twitter and an Instagram that I'm active on every day, so come say hello to me. Thank you guys for watching. Bye!